Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jonathan. Welcome to my Compound Life. This is a channel where we build assets, we build habits, and of course, we build freedom. That will be financial freedom, time freedom for you, me, and anyone else that watches my video. So yes, this is yet another Bitcoin daily video at the time of recording. It's the 30th of January, 2026. Happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday. It's around 9:15 a.m. in the morning. So let's get started. Oh, actually, before we get started, guys, as a reminder, please refrain from letting me know how many Bitcoins you guys have. Okay, so when you guys drop me a comment section, right, you guys can tell me how much you've got allocated on Bitcoin, but just don't tell me how many Bitcoins you guys have, right? I mean, it's good to know. It's good to know for research purpose, right? But you don't have to tell me that on my comment section, okay? So otherwise, I have to keep on deleting the precious comment that you guys leave me, right? So I don't want to do that. So please don't feel offended if I start deleting comments, because sometimes, some people may disclose a little bit too much. And of course, to all of the viewers, thanks for helping me to build my Compound Life channel. It's a great community that we're building, okay? And at present, I'm on 478 subscribers. So, woohoo, right? Thank you very, 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 very much. It's feel awesome having this many like-minded individual, that loves to talk about Bitcoin, right? So if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and let me know in the comment section whether you are my 479s, 480s, or even 500s subscriber. Just let me know in the comment section who you are, which subscriber you are, and where you guys are watching from. It's always good to hear from all of you guys. So please hit the like, hit subscribe, help me out. I'm a small content creator. I create Bitcoin video almost every single day, right? And of course, the occasional personal investment journey video every other days or every few weeks. So yes, do subscribe. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with what's going on. I know in everyone's mind, it must feel pretty beaten up, all of you guys. But that's fine. That's fine. We'll get into the news. What happened, right? So, okay, so in terms of Bitcoin price right now, at the time of recording, Bitcoin price is at around 82,400. Bitcoin has been range trading at around 81,000, 82,000-ish in the past few hours. And of course, it has dropped a lot, about 8% for the past 24 hours at least, starting from around 86,000, hitting a high near 88 high-ish thousand, and falling to a low 81,000. Okay, so this is like the lowest point Bitcoin has reached in the 2 months. So we are still about 35% away from its all-time high. As a reminder, that's 126,000 back in the 8th of October last year. And of course, I think for now, such a big drop on Bitcoin, essentially it's acting like a risky investment, right? Risk investment right now. So, it kind of follows the characteristic of growth stocks, risk on asset, where people, they get worried about the economy. So that's why they start to sell off. Okay, so obviously looking at the chart, We have dropped well below the support zone. Probably makes sense that we just remove the support zone now. Nothing to look forward to at all. But if we zoom out, guys. Okay, so Bitcoin is now at the same level of when we were at previously, sometime in November last year. Okay, and of course, if we let's go out to 1 day chart, right? So I think immediately the question would be, are we in a bear market, or is this kind of like the final dip before the bounce that will go all-time high? It's hard to read, but personally speaking, I reckon we are in a bear market. Or, I mean, we have been in the bear market since the recent peak of 126,000. That's back in sometime in 8th of October, right? And then we have been on a downtrend, bear trends, with some dead cat bounce, and then it does seem we are, heading towards a bear market. And let me just quickly show you this, right? This. Okay, so I showed this chart almost on a daily basis, just to let you guys keep up to date of what's going on, right? Let me just refresh this. Okay, so this illustrates Bitcoin price for the multiple Bitcoin cycle. So the white line is the current Bitcoin cycle, which is the 4th cycle. The blue line, which represents the 2018 to 2022 Bitcoin cycle. And then the yellow one represents the 2015 to 2018 Bitcoin cycle. As obviously when we go through this kind of mark Bitcoin at the low, and during the cycle period, of course, usually for Bitcoin, it's a 4-year cycle, by the way, right? So the first year will be the Bitcoin bear cycle, right? Bear trends, followed by 3 years worth of, about 2 years worth of, let's call it 2 years. Yeah, 2 years worth of upwards momentum. And then after it hits the all-time high, which you can see, I'm not sure whether you can see this would be the gray out section. So in the recent all-time high, it was sometime in October last year, right? So this will usually be like the time to take profits and leave, right? That is if you hold a swing back, right? So I do hold a hodl back as well as swing back, hodl back. I just buy Bitcoin, stack them, store them, lock them up in a safe deposit somewhere in a bank, and never touches it ever again, right? And of course, if we're referring to our swing back, essentially this would be the period that we want to sell off, right? So that, by the time it takes approximately 1 year for Bitcoin to get to its bottom, as highlighted by the previous 2 cycle, right? It does seem we are playing this out. You never know. A lot of analysts are arguing the fact that 4 years Bitcoin cycle don't play out. It's an elongated cycle this time round. And, there's a lot of expectation that it will go up, right? But anyway, I'm here to help us, especially the DCA gang, to manage our expectation a little bit, right? So if we do daily DCA, fantastic, right? We don't need to care too much about the volatility. But at the same time, if you want to be slightly, apply a more proactive approach, like DCA a little bit on steroid, most of the time you want to make sure you DCA a lot more amount maybe like the 100 days, like especially during this period, right? This couple of hundreds of days, like 200 days, 300 days, I don't know. It can be 100 days, 200 days, 300 days. You want a DCA with the most amount of money, just so that, you know what, you can capture more of the upside when it goes up and not having to DCA at a higher price, right? So that's at least how I play the Bitcoin game. Okay, so this is the situation of us going through now. And I kind of felt that we are heading towards a bear market. And how low will Bitcoin get, right? So I think possibly we may come down to this support next. And this support will probably be around 55,000 to about 66,000. So 55 to about 65,000, right? So if Bitcoin does come down to this range, I think it's also a pretty fair value for Bitcoin. And I think maybe the price can, you know, sustain for a good period of time. Depends on how many buyers are stepping in, right? I think Bitcoin's fair value is around 55,000 too, right? So, so do have the preparation. If you're on DCA, right, I think all is good, right? And if we do come down to this price range, it would definitely be another good accumulation time, right? So, yeah, I think just to keep you guys aware of what's going on. And I mean, look at the price now, right? If we go back to 4 hours chart, right? So look at the price now. Let's zoom out a little bit, right? Previously Bitcoin dropped to such level, right? And look at the volumes. People start stepping in to buy and then to push up the price even further, right? However, this time around, it doesn't seem to have too many buyers. It's all mainly red. Look at the buy volumes. So personally, I kind of felt this is playing out. And if that's the case, it doesn't mean the death of Bitcoin, by the way, because I think all over social media now, it's quite bipolar in a way, right? So we've got half of the people that are saying that Bitcoin is dead right now, okay? Like the whole market is dead, Bitcoin is dead, right? Because if you look through what's happened yesterday, equity market, almost everything dropped. Not just Bitcoin, not just crypto, everything dropped. And including gold and silver. Obviously, gold dropped from 5,500 to about 5,100. So everything dropped, guys. So not good, right? But it's not just Bitcoin, by the way. It's for everything. And I think it's also worth the while to highlight, because of this, right? So on social media, there are half of people saying that Bitcoin is dead, it's going to zero, yada, 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 right? But there's also a few that still believe in the global liquidity. Gold move first, followed by Bitcoin, ISM cycle, yada, 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 right? So I'm not saying I totally disregard that, but I think more importantly is what does the trend actually indicate to us, right? And it does seem, for now at least, it's a downward moving trend, right? We failed to secure, I think it was the 50 days moving average. So a lot of the key supporting line we somehow failed to secure, right? And I think overall, the whales, the OGs, I mean, there are still OGs buying, there's still OGs stacking, right? But I don't think they're stacking for this cycle anymore. It's more of a DCA in for the next cycle, right? So that's why I kind of constantly bringing this chart back just to remind us where we are in the Bitcoin cycle and how the rhythm can potentially be playing out, right? Of course, I want Bitcoin to go up as high as possible, as fast as possible. But at the same time, the rhythm, the trends, so this rhythm and the trend is telling me Bitcoin's not heading up anytime soon. So bear that in mind and have the expectation that potentially the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin 4-year cycle will continue to play out, right? If it does, it's not the end of the world, guys, right? Just a quick recap. 802 more days left until the next Bitcoin halving date, right? And we all know what will happen, right? It's like clockwork, guys, right? We all know what will happen after the Bitcoin halving date. Bitcoin price will continue to rise, essentially because it's the supply and demand, right? There will be so much more demand and really lack of supply because the whole mining operation, the rewards will be half, essentially. So 800 days until the next halving date. And of course, as a reminder, it's Bitcoin usually bottoms, right? 500 days before the halving date, right? So we've got essentially, less than 300 days left, right? Yeah, you guys get this, right? Okay, I hope you guys get this. I hope you guys get it. Drop a like. Let me know in the comment section because I bring this conversation up every single week, right? Not every single week, every single day, constantly reminding you guys about the halving date and so forth. And, the timing, the rhythm. So I hope you guys get this. So drop a comment section. Let me know if you guys do get it so that I don't, maybe I'll consider not to constantly repeating myself like a broken record. Okay, so let's move on to take a quick look in terms of Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. I think we are in extreme fear. It's a given. I think Bitcoin dropped so much. So for the weeks, at least 2 days worth of extreme fear and 5 days worth of fear. I think for now, I think there's no way or any fast way for us to get back to neutral zone just yet. So more extreme and fear zone. I think I've warned you guys before, right? I've warned you guys on Sunday. I've already called out a few macro event that's happening and already called out what will happen. These events, these key events will break Bitcoin. And yes, it finally did on Thursday. Okay. And let's take a quick look in terms of ETF flow. ETF. Yesterday, the 29th of January, ETF, huge, massive outflow, $817 million worth of outflow, mainly coming from BlackRock, Fidelity, Bitwise, you name it, Grayscale. Everyone selling off. Okay, so if we take a quick look at, okay, this is ETH. Let me change this to Bitcoin, BTC. Okay, if we look at the weekly, doesn't look good, guys. I think it will be even more because we've got at least today as well as yeah, at least today. I think today will be another huge sell-off. So likely we will be similar outflow from last week, right? So far it's for Bitcoin is about $978 million worth of outflow. Last week it was 1.33 billion worth of outflow. The only bullish week was 1.42 billion worth of inflow, but essentially I think any gain for January has now been wiped off, right? Wiped out essentially, right? So all of this outflow. Okay, so on the monthly chart, Bitcoin ETF continue for January to be outflow. Okay, I think it absolutely makes sense, right? If we simply just refer back to the Bitcoin chart, right? Essentially marking, the low to the highs, right? So this year's meant to be a bearish year, right? So we had the high, right? And then we'll continue to be bearish for at least 1 year, right? And then people try to concentrate the Bitcoin accumulation at around this, this portion of the cycle, right? So that essentially they're kind of buying low and then eventually sell high again when Bitcoin does the run, right? So yeah, I think this is essentially playing out how Bitcoin normal rhythm. Okay, and of course, let's take a quick look in terms of Ethereum ETF, 29th of January, or outflow, 155 million, mainly coming from BlackRock, Fidelity, and Grayscale, right? So quick look in terms of ETH. Let me change the URL to ETH. ETH. Okay, so weekly it's outflow $74 million outflow for ETH. Compared to last week, it was 611. So ETH isn't too bad actually. But on a monthly basis, again, more outflow for ETH, 100 million for the month of January, and $616 million for outflow for the month of December. And more outflow, about $1.42 billion worth of outflow for the month of November. Okay, so you know what? No one wants Bitcoin. No one wants crypto. It's just ugly. Now we're like the unwanted kids now. No one wants us anymore, guys. Okay, so let's take a quick look at Solana. Solana finally, it had a outflow after all of this inflows. So finally, yesterday, 29th of January, Solana, it's $2.2 million worth of outflow, mainly coming from Bitwise and Grayscale. However, for Solana, I think for the month of January, probably, I think we will still be bullish with more inflow versus outflow. But having said that, inflow very, very minimal. For the month of January, about $116 million worth of inflow in comparison to December, 147 million worth of inflow versus 115. I think this is how Bitcoin and cryptos is playing out. I think it will continue to get weaker, and then knowing the fact that there's simply no more positive catalysts coming our way, at least for the next 2 quarters, right? For quarter 1 and quarter 2. In that case, I don't personally see how quickly the Bitcoin price can improve, to be honest, right? I don't know about you guys, but let me know in the comment section what you guys think about, right? Are we, is this playing out, guys? Or are you guys thinking that, the ISM, global liquidity, gold rotating into Bitcoin, which it's a total lie because gold sold a lot, huge sell-off yesterday, and nothing rotated into Bitcoin, by the way. So it is what it is. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Otherwise, let's move on to the next section. News that moves Bitcoin price. Okay. So I've warned you guys already on Sunday. This week will be bad. And indeed, it's pretty bad, right? But how bad, right? I think in all your mind, everyone is like, what the hell happened yesterday? You know what? So what happened yesterday was, right, let's look at the economic calendar first. But by the way, I mean, it's not because of the economic calendar, right? So yesterday, from the economic calendar on January the 29th, initial job loss claims came out at around 209,000, which was far higher than expectation of 205,000, and previous was 210,000. Okay, so this data for the week ending of January 24th. So what the hell is a jobless claim? So jobless claim shows how many people filed for unemployment benefits, a sign of job market health in the USA. Okay, so higher than expected means more people losing their jobs, which worried investors about the economy slowing down, yada yada yada, right? And usually a weaker job market could push the Fed to consider rate cuts, right? And of course, I think with how hawkish Jerome Powell sounded in on Wednesday meeting, right? He was pretty hawkish, to be quite frank. So I think generally, with so much happening in the market, people just want to sell off, right? So we've got US government shutdown, we've got possible Iran war, yada, 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 which I'll cover in all the news section. So also on the January 29th, another data came out. So that's the US trade deficit data. So the US trade deficit was negative $56.8 billion for November, worse than forecast of minus $42.9 billion. And of course, previous was $29.4 billion. So background, trade deficit means US imports more than exports, okay, which can weaken the dollar over time, and it does matter, this data, right? Because bigger deficit signals economic imbalances, and what it does is adding to more market fears. And short-term wise, it's pretty bearish due to the USD strength worries, right? But of course, I think give it another few more months, this whole situation can change, right? But definitely it's adding a lot more bearishness onto Bitcoin, right? So that's why it's not giving any good news for investor to wanting to continue to stay risk on Bitcoin. And of course, today, what other data are coming out today? The 30th, I think producer price index coming out. This kind of measure the inflation at wholesale level. If higher than expected, could mean less rate cut, bearish for Bitcoin for the short term. I mean, at least leading up until March. That's where the next FOMC meeting, potentially to evaluate whether to have a rate cut or not. Okay. And of course, I think all of this leads on to Trump pretty pissed off with Jerome Powell, right? So Trump, Truth Social, Jerome, too late. Powell again refused to cut rates, even though he has absolutely no reason to keep them so high. I know. Just cut the damn rate already, Jerome. Just help us out. Just help me out. Just help the Bitcoin bros out a little bit, guys. I mean, but that's fine. We should all just chill, We only, how many more days until, 802 days left until the next Bitcoin halving date, right? The whole supply shock's going to happen again, right? It's all going to play out. So it doesn't matter. Let's play the long game. So we don't even have to worry about Trump anymore, right? Just make all of this nonsense tweet on Truth Social. And of course, we know he's very, very pissed off with Jerome Powell. So that's why I've got a call coming. Maybe let's not pick up. I like my session with you guys more. Let's continue. And of course, Trump is pissed off. So that's why Trump will make a new announcement of the new Fed chair likely next week. So check this out. Let's turn this up, guys.
Next week, I think sometime, Scott and Howard and everybody, we're going to be announcing the head of the Fed, who that will be.
Yeah.
And it'll be a person that will, I think, do a good job. We're paying far too much interest in the Fed. The Fed rate's too
Absolutely,
high.
guys.
Unacceptably high. We should have the lowest, and I think you read my statement today. I put out a statement before the meeting, but we should have the lowest interest rate anywhere in the world, because a lot of these countries are successful only because of us, because we allow them to have surpluses. And without next week, I think sometimes.
So hopefully next week, we shall see. But having said that, I think Jerome Powell's definitely going to stick around. And to be frank, it's not Jerome Powell that's making that key decision, right? It gets through a vote from the Fed. I think the recent FOMC decision, only 2 of the vote agreed on a rate cut, where the rest kind of just disagree and wanted to stay on, right? No rate cut. So anyway, we will see how this all plays out. So yeah, I think massive sell-off as a result. It's kind of like no rate cut. People afraid, and then the next day, the following day, Thursday, your time, everything drops, right? But of course, there's more than no rate cut that's causing Bitcoin price to drop, as well as the whole market, equity market to drop. Another thing, that's also causing gold and silver to drop, I think it's essentially ahead of the US government shutdown, guys. So US government shutdown. So right now, there's a big worry in every investor's mind about the US government shutting down, or not total shutdown, but shutting certain part of it soon, right? So this happened when people in the Congress cannot agree on how to spend money for the government to keep it running, right? So they need to pass special bills called appropriations to fund things like national parks, offices, and some of the government workers get paid, right? So essentially the government needs money approved every year to operate. If they miss the deadline, non-essential parts close until they fix it, until they have agreement onto it, right? So this time, funding for 6 out of 12 mains area run out after January 30th, right, which is today. So the fight is over things like how much to spend, adding rules about immigrations or other policies that one side doesn't like, right? So to me, these are just politics BS that's stopping the US government from progressing further, right? So obviously Republicans and Democrats are arguing with President Trump involved, and no full deal yet as of January the 30th. So if no agreement by midnight, shutdown starts January 31st. It could last days or weeks. And just a reminder, guys, the last government shutdown, the last US government shutdown, I think lasted for about 35 days. Okay, so markets are selling off beforehand, and because people are just in extreme fear of uncertainty and doubts of whether the US government can do the right things, I guess. So yeah, I think because of this news, shutdown can slow down the whole economy, right? And stop the liquidity, right? So Bitcoin price can go even lower, right? So bear that in mind, guys. Bear that in mind. So yes, yesterday wasn't just affecting Bitcoin, it's affecting the whole of the economy, right? But frankly speaking, if you guys do have cash lying around, I reckon it's such a good time to just DCA in, right? Like, slightly DCA more and buy the dip more, okay? At least, for Bitcoin, I'm not buying anything for transparency, but at least for Tesla shares, it was such an attractive buy yesterday, and I bought some. And of course, let's continue to move on. Other news that's affecting Bitcoin price, I think it could well be this one, right? Trump warns of massive armada. Is that how you guys pronounce it? Armada to Iran. Escalating tensions and triggering Bitcoin and equity sell-off, right? So tensions between the US and Iran have been high for many, many years, right? Mostly over Iran's nuclear program, where they might be trying to make nuclear weapons, something the US doesn't want. I don't think anyone wants this, right? So it's good. I reckon it's good that US is stepping in onto this. So back in 2018, Trump pulled out a deal that limits Iran's nuclear work in exchange for easing sanctions, which are like economic punishments, right? So now in January 2026, with Trump back as president, he's ramping up pressure. So on January 28th, Trump obviously posted on Truth Social about sending a massive armada. That's a big fleet of warships led by the aircraft carriers USS Abraham Lincoln towards Iran. So he said it's bigger than the one sent to Venezuela recently, and it's ready to act with speed and violence if needed. Okay, so this is to force Iran to negotiate a new nuclear deal or face worse attacks, right? So there's also anger over Iran's crackdown on protests inside the country. So for people new to this, it's like two countries that are staring down on each other's, with the US showing military muscle to make Iran back off on nukes, right? But it risks starting a war, at least in the Middle East, right? Not a global war, but at least in the Middle East, which could mess the oil supply since Iran controls a key shipping route, if you guys use. Okay, so this captured huge fear and uncertainty. And I reckon this could be, if this does play out, it could be like a big black swan event where sudden war talks makes everyone in markets panic and sell risky stuff to avoid losses, right? So this kind of reminds me, was it the last cycle? Yeah, roughly the last cycle when the war between Russia and Ukraine kicked off, right? So wars are no good, no good. So for Bitcoin and stockholders is pretty bad news, and that's why people are selling off, and this time around they're also selling off gold and silver too. So pretty bad, guys, pretty bad. And of course there are other news that I think it's also adding the fuel to suppress Bitcoin price further. Okay, it's this one. The SEC and CFTC announced joint Bitcoin and crypto regulation initiatives, right? It's as if they cannot decide on who's the boss on this, and they have to like take on a joint ownership. I mean, what the hell, guys? Just make up the damn decision already, right? So here it is.
Standards and definitions were appropriate, and to equip markets with the confidence as Congress completes its vital work. Working together with a common purpose, we can deliver clearer guidance, consistent standards, and a regulatory framework that reflects how markets actually function instead of how they used to.
Okay, I'm not going to play the whole video, but anyway, just a background. The SEC, which is the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, watches over stocks and investment to protect you guys, the American, right? Not me, like protect people from fraud. And the CFTC stands for Commodity Futures Trading Commission. They essentially handles things like futures contracts for commodities such as oil and gold, paper oil, paper Bitcoin, stuff like that, right? So for years, they argued over who should regulate crypto like Bitcoin. Is it more like a stock or a commodity? So on January 29th, their new leader, SEC Chairman Paul, what's his name? Paul Atkins? Yep. And CFTC Chairman Mike Selick, right? Both appointed by President Trump, held a joint event at the CFTC headquarters. They call it Project Crypto, saying it's the most ambitious teamwork between the two agencies in a generation. So the goal is essentially to harmonize rules, make clear definitions for crypto assets, and work together instead of fighting over turf, right? I reckon they will continue to have more turf fighting because there's no joint initiative to manage this, guys. So this comes after Trump's pro-crypto promises, and while waiting for new laws from Congress, they're starting with joint policies to clarify what's a security versus a commodity in crypto. So implication to this headline, essentially this captures a lot of disappointment. At least I'm disappointed, right? And uncertainty as some hope for quick, bold changes like making Bitcoin fully commodity or whatever, right? But the joint approach might seem too slow or indecisive, leading to fear or delays or stricter rules moving forward, right? So I think the whole announcement feels vague without immediate actions, causing more worries than anyone else needed, right? So not good, simply not good. So, and of course, Paul Atkins urges to pass Bitcoin and crypto market structure bill. Guys, I don't think this is coming anytime soon, right? So have that expectation in place, right? And enough of the fear, uncertainty, doubt news. You know what? giving me a headache now. Let's move on to other interesting news section, right? Interesting news. Binance to shift $1 billion $1 billion worth of user protection fund into Bitcoin amid market rout. Okay, so Binance will convert the stablecoin holdings in its $1 billion secure asset fund for user to Bitcoin over the next 30 days. That's good. Well, at least Binance is buying more Bitcoin with plans for regular audits. So Binance, the biggest crypto exchange, will be moving its $1 billion secure asset fund for users from stablecoin to Bitcoin over 30 days. This fund protects users if something goes wrong, right? So what the hell is stablecoin, right? Stablecoins are steady, like they peg to US dollars. So while Bitcoin swings a lot, so that is kind of like a bold move in a way, showing faith in terms of Bitcoin, which is good, right? And of course, I think it does matter because I think fundamentally Bitcoin is very strong. So that's why it makes absolute sense to shift the, and how they're going to do this, right? The exchange has pledged to replenish the fund to $1 billion if Bitcoin price swing cause its value to fall below 800 million. Okay, so that's very good, right? So it does seem Binance is doing the right thing. But this kind of opens up another consideration, right? So, of course, Binance is framing this as, the change as part of its long-term industry building efforts. But this kind of brings me to, to start thinking about, are they buying the dip now before the next Bitcoin move up? So I'm just like thinking out loud, is that the reason that they're doing it right now, right? Or it could well be the reason, is this kind of like the warning to the market that they're not comfortable holding more dollars that debases and devalues, and this is why they're doing it. And of course, when big players like Binance doing it, clowns like the Justin Sun immediately jumping in, doing the same thing too. So Justin Sun to buy more Bitcoin. Tron founder Justin Sun says he plans to expand his Bitcoin holdings following a call from Binance. So Binance doing it, Justin Sun's, the clown, starts coming in to do the same too, right? Interesting. So ask yourself the questions, right? Are they doing it because they feel uncomfortable about the US dollars, right? Because right now, guys, everyone, big banks, everyone are uncomfortable, have no faith about the US dollars, right? So especially holding stablecoin, that's fear, right? So that's why, is this the reason that they rather shift this into buying more Bitcoin when Bitcoin is very, very cheap? Well, I can't say very, very cheap because it can potentially drop further. It's fairly cheap right now, okay? Or are they actually seeing some potential with Bitcoin, like greater upside coming very, very soon? So that's why they're doing it, right? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Other news, Metaplanet is raising $137 million to buy even more Bitcoin, guys. Wow, right? So Metaplanet, a Japanese company focused on Bitcoin as treasury, is raising $137 million through shares and warrants to pay debt and buy more Bitcoin. They already hold some, like like MicroStrategy. For newbies, this is corporate adoption into Bitcoin, right? Giving you full confidence that companies like this, they'll buy Bitcoin and likelihood they won't sell, right? They just hold it in their treasuries, right? They're in the long game, okay? Unlike a lot of other weak hands on ETF that they'll just sell off whenever there's some negative news. Okay, so let me bring you guys the final hopium of the day before we finish today. So the final hopium that I want to bring you all to is this. Right. The final hopium on Bitcoin whales movement. So in the past 24 hours, a big panic sell off of 200 Bitcoin. Okay, so a gigantic whale, panic sold 200 Bitcoin. That's worth well over $17 million, right? So this whale originally bought 300 BTC for $33.44 million at an average price of $111,000 per Bitcoin on November the 12th. And then now he or she sold 200 BTC, Bitcoin, at a loss exceeding $8 million, right? So that's no good. So why is this a hopium, guys? Because weak hands are selling. So more cheap Bitcoins for you, me, and anyone else that watches my video. So guys, please drop a like, hit subscribe. And more importantly, guys, do not FOMO. Right? So I think right now it's not the right time to FOMO. If you DCA, continue to do it because I reckon Bitcoin can potentially go lower. If not, that's also great too because in my Compound Life channel, we have a hodl bag as well as a swing bag. So we're not going to get too worried about, all of this sentiments going on around, right? But do not FOMO. And more importantly, do not panic sell right now, guys. Okay, so overall summary for the day, past 24 hours, been rough for Bitcoin. I know it's been rough for you, me, and everyone else in Bitcoin and crypto space. Plenty of liquidating longs, and of course, ETF mainly outflows. Weak hands, a lot of weak retail hands selling out in the ETF. And of course, US government shutdown, uncertainties. All of this leads to Bitcoin dump, guys. However, we do have big institutions continue to buy, right? What does that tell us? Bitcoin is getting more scarce. It's not a retail game anymore. It's not like a game for you and I, right? But we can still win this. Right? Like Binance are buying, Metaplanet are buying, Justin Sun's buying, right? Shifting to BTC show long-term convictions and confidence on that asset class, right? So watch out. Today, we'll see how it goes. If you like the video, if you like the content, hit the like, hit subscribe. Let me know who you are. Let me know which number of subscribers you guys are and where you guys watching from, which countries, right? And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.